Okay, good morning and welcome to Iyun with Benzion. Today's daf is Yevamos number 98. In honor of the number 98, we have a special share for you today. If you ever wondered medically or halakhically, could a person still be called living after their brain ceases to work, their heart is functioning, their heart is beating, the brain is dead? Are you considered living? What about the opposite case? Your brain somehow is working, but your heart is not working. What would be the halacha there? So it's based on today's daf. The Gemara says that when it comes to lineage, let's say you're someone, it's called horoso shelo b'kedusha v'leidaso b'kedusha, meaning when you were conceived, your parents weren't Jewish, right? You had relations, they conceived you, and then while during the pregnancy, your mother converted, or both of your parents converted. So it's called Leidasa B'Kedusha. When you were born as a Jewish person. So the Gemara says that, and it's clear from the Brisa on the bottom of Sadi Zayin Bay, is that even Midoraisa, you can have maternal lineage, meaning since you were born as a Jew, so therefore from your mother, right, your brother. So if your mother, if you have another brother, your mother has another brother afterwards, after she converted, after you, or you were twins, both of you were twins. She had twins, and then you were born B'Kedusha, both of you B'Kedusha. So therefore, you are related, even though Gershin is Gayer Katan Shanoladami, that's only if you were living and then you were Megayer. But if you were born B'Kedusha, so then, even though you don't have lineage from your father, meaning your father had a different brother afterwards, had a different son afterwards from a different woman, so you share a father, that's not considered your brother. And you can marry his wife. There's no Yevamos Chalitza. He's not considered your brother at all. You can marry your brother's wife. No Israel Yishasach. But your mother's brother, there is an Israel Yishasach, like we know. Obviously, there's no Yevamos Chalitza. Yevamos Chalitza only applies to Eishes Ach Min Ha'av, from the father. But there's no paternal lineage, only maternal lineage. And obviously, the idea is that the father's lineage is determined at the conception. Right, because he is the osa maisa, but he's the one doing the act. The woman is karka olam, the Gemara says. She's just lying there. And the man is the one who releases the zera into the woman. So therefore, he is responsible for creating the child at conception. Now, then 9 months happen, right? Eventually it turns from, an embryo into a fetus. And then after 9 months, a child is born. Who's responsible for the birth? The mother is responsible for the birth because she is the one that goes through labor over there. The husband might be on the side coaching her, right, doing Lamaze methods, but it doesn't make a difference. The wife is the one doing the real action, and she's in a lot of pain. I mean, if you've ever been to childbirth before, they do have epidurals nowadays, but she's the one who's pushing the child out. She literally has to push the child out. She actually doesn't just come out. Most of the time, it just doesn't fly out the baby, especially the first couple of births. The woman has to actually forcefully push the child out. So the mother is responsible for the Leida. And now if the Leida is B'Kedusha, so therefore at the time of the birth, the mother was Jewish and the child also was born as a Jew. So therefore, any brother that he shared with his mother, if they were twins, or if afterwards his mother had another child with a different father, it would still be his brother. And there would be an Isha Achmida Raisa. You have kares for being together with your brother's wife. All the dinim, he's considered your brother 100% minat Torah. So it's very interesting. So I'd like to suggest this has relevance to practical shaila over here. There is a shaila in halacha and in the world, in medical, in countries have different laws about this. Let's say a person is in a coma, vegetative state, maybe a induced coma, maybe a coma for a long time. We don't know when it's going to end. Obviously, the person at that point is brain dead. He can't really think. His heart is working. He's probably on a ventilator to help him breathe because he can't. His brain is inactive over there, right? So, but his body's working. So, if it's very possible to maybe consider someone alive if their heart is still beating, but the brain is not working, and manually you can keep them alive on a ventilator. which helps him breathe, which does the functions that the brain normally does. The brain, controls the respiratory system and helps you breathe, which would give oxygen to the heart, and remove the carbon dioxide that the veins bring to the heart and ultimately out of the body. Now with the ventilator, that's what it accomplishes. But what about the opposite? If your brain is alive, could your heart not be alive? Are you still considered alive? I think everyone would say a brain without a body, a brain without a body is nothing. You're not going to live like that. A brain without a body, that's for sure. That if you are mentally if you're mentally somehow there, right? It doesn't make sense. It's impossible. It's impossible that you can be mentally there without your heart beating. That's the Gemara says. The Gemara says by chicken, by Shabbos, psik reishe v'lo yamos, cut off the head of a chicken, v'lo yamos, it's going to die. Not right now. Eventually it's going to die. Without a brain, right? We know animals move around. People move around. There's pirkus. The Gemara says in Chulin, animals move around after you chop off the head. But for sure the head without the body, the head is dead. The head without the body is nothing. It's krisos. That's beheading. Without the head, you got nothing. Without the body, you got nothing. A head is worthless without a body. A body without a head. But you know where the case actually where you have this? You actually have this when an embryo, when the baby is conceived, right? It's an interesting state. This is the opposite of, I would say, a coma. Is that when a child is in the mother's womb, so we know people, the scientific studies that you can actually talk to the baby. You actually say to the baby, I love you. It's your father. It's your mother. The brain works, but the body has no sensation, right? There's no breathing. It's not normal breathing, right? It gets nutrients the opposite way. It gets nutrients through the placenta, right? And the Gemara says, right when it's born, then the mouth opens and it starts breathing. Otherwise, it's not breathing really. So there's no life in the body, but there is. It's possible to have actually life with a head, right? Maybe an understanding what's going on, but not a body working. And the body's not working at all now. So, and that's really the case of pregnancy. And that's why the Av, there is yichus. When the yichus of the Av is dependent on the conception, when the baby is conceived, because the relationship between a father and a son is always going to be an intellectual relationship. It's not going to be an emotional relationship. It's an intellectual relationship. The father teaches his son Torah. It's an intellectual relationship. It's in the mind, right? And there's been studies that know that, depending on what you're thinking when the time of conceiving, when you let the sperm out, so that has an effect on the baby. It's a conceptual thing. Releasing the sperm, conceiving the baby is an intellectual thing. That's the bond that the father shares with the child. The mother shares with the child the Leda. That's when the mother becomes the mother when she gives birth to the child. That's emotional. She's in a lot of pain. She's in a lot of pain. It's very difficult. Emotionally, it's very difficult. So that's an emotional bond. So let's get back to the juicy questions of abortion. Now, I'm not going to weigh in politically on what I think. On political is different, but according to the Torah, it's because we know there's no concept. If your brain is working where there's no body, of course you're not alive. So I would say the same thing by a fetus, that if the brain is working, which we're assuming, that's what I'm saying over here, the brain is working, the yichus of the father, but the body's not working, the heart is not working, the emotions are not working. It only comes through the emotions, which becomes related to the mother, through the emotions of the mother in the giving birth, in the child giving birth. So therefore, the baby is not considered alive in the womb. Just like, when there's a brain without a body, the brain is definitely dead, it's meaningless. So it would be the opposite of a coma. A coma would be where, your body is working, but your brain is not working. That's what I would say. I guess you'd say, if politically you'd call it pro-choice. It wouldn't be pro-life, it would be pro-choice. That's what I have to say about it. And that explains also why the Gemara, we're not going to do it right now, why the Gemara talks about a mitzri over here. Because a mitzri has to do with the Kedushas Yisrael, as opposed to Ammoni and Moabi. A mitzri is someone who's... we're not going to get into that now. We'll stop the shir now. Hope you enjoyed today's share. See you tomorrow.